wanted to ask about this Let the Ground Rest album. What do you tell me a little bit about the journey of creating this album?
Yeah.
Maybe some stories behind a couple of the songs or whatever you'd like to share.
For sure. Yeah, so Let the Ground Rest was like the first full length that I did after signing with Centricity. And so I feel like this is probably a pretty common occurrence with most artists, but like your first album is kind of it feels like it's everything up until that moment. Like everything, all the good songs you've ever written, all the best stuff, and to me it felt very obvious, like these are the songs.
Yeah.
And really it had been over the course of pretty much the whole time I'd been writing had kind of led up to that, which wasn't a super long time. But then there's the sophomore album kind of dilemma of, okay, I just released all like my best songs,
Yeah.
and now I have to like write new songs. And I remember I read like an article about Jason Isbell when he recorded, I think it was like that like Nashville sound record he did, where I might be getting the record wrong, but I know one of his records at least, he had a bunch of songs, then he scrapped them and like wrote a totally new album. And I remember reading that being like, that sounds impossible. Like, how do you even do that? And then sort of being put in that position of, okay, like, let's, just start writing for something, which felt really unnatural at first, but I actually really love how it turned out, because it felt like there's this kind of like what I mentioned earlier. It's like writing can be this sort of budget inadvertent therapy sort of thing. And so you see, like, I definitely didn't sit down and think like, all right, I want to have tons of season metaphors and, time things, but it's just where my heart and my brain were at.
Yeah.
And so like really the whole album was written over the course of probably, from song 1 to song 10, maybe 4 or 5 months.
Yeah. Wow.
And so like pretty short timeline. And so I think they all ended up feeling very from that same kind of core of about just sort of that seasonal thing that I was in at the time, which became much more applicable than I thought it would, because I wrote it in 2019, like first part of 2019, and it came out like 3 weeks into the first lockdown, and then realizing it's like, oh man, I just released a record all about like waiting and like the barren season, and had no clue I'd be releasing it when I did. So
who would have ever saw this coming?
right. Yeah, I had no clue. And so honestly, it's cool to look at it and think there's some sort of providence in that, because I was definitely not banking on a year-long pandemic. So
Yeah, and the season metaphors never get old. Like, it's really, I mean, I was thinking about this actually when I was listening to the album before, like, how many songs are there about like spring and fall and winter? And because it's something that every single person can relate to. I mean, I guess unless you like live on the equator, then maybe you can't relate
like
to it.
Spring, just spring,
Just
all
spring.
the time.
But most people in most parts of the country can relate to just this, like the changing of seasons and how that feels, and how like even if it's a really bad winter, like it's only winter. It's gonna get better.
Yeah.
The spring is gonna come.
Yeah, I think that's it. It became such an important and like powerful thought to me as I was writing, and it's really something I hold on to now. This idea that, for lack of a better metaphor, it feels like we've been in like a pretty hard winter for a while.
Yeah.
And like I can't look at history necessarily, or even, examples like inherently like story examples in scripture of like, this is when the big pandemic happened or something like that. But like you can look at the character of God shown in how he created the world and how he created cycles to things, and the fact that you can trust that he's faithful to bring us out of this because that's what he's always been like.